Hello and welcome to EMS at C-Level, from my home to yours. I'm Philip Stoten and I'm joined today by Amar Hanspal from Bright Machines. Amar, great to talk to you. You need very little introduction, but I'll get you to give a brief introduction. But what I wanted to just, while I'm doing that, is mention your TED speech. I watched your TED speech from way back. You look younger now than you did then, so well done on that. But I think when you've done those things and you've kind of set out the future of manufacturing, it's nice to look back on them and kind of with some curiosity to see how things went. But let's start with a brief introduction to you and Bright Machines.
Yeah, Philip, thanks for having me. It's great to talk to you again. My name is Amar Hanspal. I am the CEO of Bright Machines, and I've been doing this project for about 2.5 years now. I started in May of 2018. We're all about building an intelligent platform for industrial automation. Prior to Bright Machines, I was the co-CEO at Autodesk, which is a CAD/CAM CAE software company. I was there for more than 25 years in a variety of roles, from customer service to product support to product development eventually. And really the last 5 to 7 years there, the cloud transformation of the company was something I was intimately involved in. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's so much to do and enjoy out here, and I'm fortunate to work with some very smart people, and that's who I am.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exciting being there at the moment, Amar, because there are so many interesting startups, and particularly what I'm seeing is a bit of a renaissance of really cool startups in the manufacturing space.
Right.
Operational excellence, manufacturing excellence, those trends have become sexy again. And
Right.
I think we went through a long period in the EMS industry of those not being a priority, the priority being saving money. But we'll loop back to that.
Yeah.
What I wanted to explore first of all was this crazy 2020 we've all been through, an insane year. You survived, and in some ways you thrived, and you were creative during that period. What did you learn about your own business, and what did you learn about the manufacturing industry during that time?
Well, Philip, it was a little bit of a terrifying experience. I honestly have to say, 2020.
Damn straight.
Like, I mean, I don't think anybody expected how quickly we went into this sort of everything frozen universe. And I would say, when I look back for our company, there was like 3 things that I walked away with for our own company. The first one was, not having single points of failure. So I think one of the things that if you have operations, and let's say our entire manufacturing was going to be done in Wuhan, we would have been shut down for 3 months at a stretch. So I think there was just, and fortunately we were not, and we had the ability, we had facilities in Israel and Mexico, and kind of as the virus went around the world, we were able to turn things up and turn other things down and kind of stay in business. So I think not having single points of failure was one. Second, you and I are speaking over Zoom, and now we take this all for granted, but you think about how many businesses, and ours was no exception, had to reinvent digital ways of doing things. So for us, for example, delivering product to a customer and actually configuring the product used to involve us going physically, or giving a demo to a customer involved, us being sort of physically present and showing them the product we were building, or, so collaborating in the office. So we've learned to rethink, what parts of our company actually should be done digitally. So that was another lesson that you learn, is how much of, it accelerated some of the things that we would have otherwise taken 3 years to do. We've accelerated a whole bunch of sort of digital reinvention of our company. That was the second lesson we learned. And third one is, cash is king. You have to really be thoughtful about investments. Don't get too far ahead and don't get too far behind in terms of, you making the money count. Saving money and then investing it in the right places. I think those are all things that I look back at the year and learn.
And they talk very much to resilience, don't they? Resilience and agility. And cash allows you to do that. And I
Right.
think your second point about the digital transformation of our business processes to make those remote, to allow that work from home, is really fascinating, because I think when we look back at the 7-year journey of Industry 4.0, we focused a lot on the factory floor, on connectivity, on all
Right.
those kind of ingredient technologies.
Right.
But the business processes can be equally important, whether that's how you sell the product or whether it's how you manage your inventory, manage your supply chain. All those things have become equally important. And another area, as we know, is the way you market your business. We will have all been hanging out in Las Vegas last week,
Yes.
partying hard at CES. We weren't able to do that.
Yes.
So we had to catch that virtually. And I thought that was, to me, a really good test of what
Right.
could be done with a all digital event. Because if there's any event that would be a challenge to put online, it was that one. If there was any association that had the budget to do it properly, it's the Consumer Tech Association.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. But everybody said, every journalist I spoke to said they still missed being there.
Right.
You didn't have the buzz. I don't know how you create that. Did you catch any of CES?
No, I just was so consumed with my universe. I did not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I read a couple of reports out in the press about CS, but I didn't see anything live.
Good stuff. Well, you should read my stuff on Forbes, because I read your stuff on Forbes.
I will.
You're writing some really nice stuff there. So we appreciate that. So yeah, coming right up to date, Inauguration Week. It was relatively dull, which I think we were all thankful for. It was relatively peaceful, but it kind of sets this agenda up for made in the USA and creating sustainable manufacturing jobs. What do you think needs to be done to make the US a world leader in terms of manufacturing? What you have the investment capital, you have the consumer market. Some of the ingredients are there, but what really needs to change?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you 3 things I've been thinking about. One, I think, government generally, I mean, I think there's a leapfrogging involved. And I think, when you think about how some of the technologies have been quickly adopted in, whether it's 5G or broadband or electric vehicles, there are nations that just skip generations of technologies and just go to the next one. They don't evolve, they kind of leapfrog. And I feel like, US has the opportunity to leapfrog, because the last means of manufacturing, which is this, big outsourced thing all the way over to the other end of the world, using physical labor and large facilities, like, don't bring that model back. I mean, there's a way of rethinking, like, how do you really do this in a different way? So I think having a mentality to leapfrog to the next idea, and I know this will sound self-serving, but the idea here is, I do think automation and digital manufacturing is really that leapfrog that the industry wants, should drive. And I think the US should pioneer that idea rather than, I know, because economically you can take manufacturing and turn it into jobs, but the problem with jobs is that, US labor rates and things like that, you're just not going to be competitive with other parts of the world. So I think leapfrogging, a way to prime that. I think the government has done this in the past, where, the space program in the 60s, the infrastructure program in the 50s, kind of created an ecosystem, and I think now the government has an opportunity with either broadband investment, 5G broadband, or with what they're trying to do with the new Green Deal, the climate technology, to really invest and create an ecosystem of modern manufacturing in the United States. So I think there's some combination of that. And the third idea, the thing is, I do think investing in education, especially vocational education, to reskill people, because it's a very real, there's no way to modernize manufacturing without creating job displacement. So you should just be proactive about that and be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. So.
Yeah, and create those skills and those opportunities. And I absolutely agree with you. And I think what we don't want to do is create China or Shenzhen in Southern California, because it's not going to work. there is a vision, there is a opportunity to create this new, largely autonomous, largely automated, largely digital manufacturing ecosystem that is really exciting and really dynamic. And there are some, there are a whole bunch of innovation assets there, but there are also a whole bunch of manufacturing companies that could be digitally transformed. So infrastructure, education, what do you think in terms of incentives? Would you like to see government policy incentivizing manufacturing companies to invest in automation, maybe giving them tax breaks to do that? Or, is that a good way of spending incentive dollars?
At an intuitive level, it feels like it. I mean, Philip, I haven't thought this through enough, nor am I really skilled on, the policy side, but it does feel like, I mean, certainly incenting companies to reskill workers is important. What companies shouldn't just do is take modern technology and then displace jobs and keep the profits for themselves. I mean, I really do think we need to reinvest in creating skills. That feels, but I do think that there are certain sort of incentives or investments. I mean, like you're seeing the US try to do this with the semiconductor business, try to incent TSMC or someone to come here and set up a modern, manufacturing environment. I think trying to do that, have some showcases of automation to kind of spur that probably would be a good investment as well.
Yeah. I've been on the investment side. It's been really interesting. I've been fascinated to watch what's happened with some of the investment fund and Eclipse, who are invested in Bright Machine, are a great example. Seeing companies investors that really know manufacturing, start to pick and build ecosystems and pick companies that go together. And, WVRI and 40 North are doing the same kind of thing. So there are some interesting examples. Do you see more and more of that? Do you see more innovation investment happening in manufacturing because of this opportunity?
I see investment happening in manufacturing. I see investment happening in what people call deep tech and science. I mean, I do think, how many more SaaS companies can people, come up with? I mean, the traditional investment model has been SaaS or security or, data storage companies. And I think there's a demand for that, but there's a whole set of problems that are very rich and actually unlock very large opportunities. I mean, I do think manufacturing is a very large industry. Construction is a very large industry. Medicine is a very large industry. Health. And these are the next sort of, industries that need investment and innovation. And I do think there's a new generation of investors who are really looking to do this rather than fund the next social networking startup. For sure.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting there, Amar, is we're seeing some great exits as well as some great investments.
Right.
Even this week with Proto Labs acquiring 3D Hubs, but we've seen some really substantial IPOs and trade deals in terms of exits that I think are really, really exciting. When we look specifically at digital transformation and manufacturing, there's a whole lot of talk and maybe not as much walk as we'd like to see. Have you seen some real shining examples of where value is delivered, where you can see a project to do it, digitally transform a specific process, and you're seeing a real ROI in terms of business opportunity?
I mean, Philip, I'd say, look, we're in the early innings of the digital transformation. So what you see right now are green shoots. I mean, you can't, there isn't a company that has completely reinvented itself digitally. Like, I mean, you look at the retail space and you say, Amazon is a digital first company, right?
Yeah.
And now there are other companies that are kind of moving in that direction quite substantially. I think manufacturing is in its early stages. But what I will say is that maybe I'll give you 3 examples. I've seen one company that, there are multiple companies, but really invest in warehousing, right? Really do a good job of building a digitally driven warehousing system where they can, respond to e-commerce demands in a very strong way. I've seen another one that I have seen that uses IoT technology for preventive maintenance in water systems. And, that's an example of digital technology being applied and being able to, improve the efficiency and uptime. And in our particular world, in automation, we've got lots of examples of companies who have worked with technology for digitally enabling the assembly line, the production line, and seen increased throughput, 70% increased throughput, while reducing the amount of labor required to build a product. So maintain quality or improve quality. So there's real, good thing about digital technologies now is that they're no longer bright shiny objects. They are doing the hard work of every day improving productivity and quality for our customers.
Yeah, and I really like those models, Amar. I refer to these often in stuff I've written as digital building blocks. And this idea that you can say, this is a digital building block, it's going to cost you $200,000 to install, or it's going to cost you $200,000 over a year, and it's going to, replace this, it's going to improve this, and it's going to save you maybe $400,000 or something like that. I love the simplicity of that, and I kind of, look forward to a time where we're seeing lots of examples. And I think there are so many foundational layers that we've already started to get into place, things like CFX and different communication standards are important. The advances in AI is important. So I think we're moving in the right direction. When you look at what Bright Machines have got coming, what's changed? What are you shaking up? What have you got that's exciting for us in 2021? And what are your expectations and ambitions for the year?
We have lots of expectations and ambitions for the year. I mean, I'd say, we are deepening our investment in software that for industrial automation, right? So increasing the level of intelligence. And Philip, our name Bright Machines comes from the idea that we're giving eyes and brains to machines. So a lot of what we are looking forward to in 2021 is really doing some cutting edge stuff with machine learning and computer vision to make the whole process of going from a product development or sort of a engineered product development proposal to a finished product very quick and simple. And I think, we're trying to connect all the dots and integrate the process. So I think that's from an innovation perspective, our dream is to make building of physical products as easy as it is to make digital products. Right? Today, I can write code, deploy on a server, and have somebody in Ireland using it in 5 minutes. And our goal is sort of to do the same thing with physical products. And I think we'll take a big step function on that in 2021. Then, of course, the other thing for us that's super important, in the next 12 months is to continue to work closely with some leading customers and, show that this stuff really works. And we've done a lot of that in 2020, but I think we have the opportunity to go from projects to really partnerships with some customers in the year to come. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think that term partnership is really important. I think one thing we learned in 2020 was that we could only get through this by collaborating, and we saw lots of great, almost some unexpected examples of collaboration, and I was excited by those. And maybe it's allowed people to understand that we can, collaborate and communicate and work well with other people in our ecosystem, in our space, without feeling we're competing with them too much. Do you feel there's a stronger sense of collaboration and obviously to do what you want to do, to have those ambitions? There's a whole bunch of people you've got to collaborate with.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think there's this interesting tension always between, you take any particular activity such as manufacturing, and specialization naturally occurs. There are people who are good at things and you end up with a specialization. But to really make it work from a productivity, efficiency, a quality perspective, you have to then connect those dots of specialization. And I think, one of the things that has happened is, I think manufacturing is moving from a model that is cost-driven to a world that is more customer service-driven. And when you are trying to be more customer service-driven, then you really have to connect those dots. And I think that pressure is what is helping everybody collaborate. And certainly I think technology has been a part of it, whether it be the internet, Zoom, whatever else. And I think all of that is starting to help. And I think there's a bunch of people we partner with to bring our product to market. And that's been a really good feeling.
Yeah. And Amar, I think that part of that trend you're talking about is what I refer to as a shift from a capacity-led manufacturing ecosystem to a more demand-led manufacturing ecosystem. Not this idea of we'll build it and they'll come, but this idea of this is what we need. How do we get it manufactured in the most efficient way for them? And I think that's a big switch to flip in terms of the way the manufacturing industry exists and operates, and one that particularly the large EMS companies are going to have to respond to, because I think that's much more what OEMs are looking for, especially in terms of not just demand in terms of volumes, but demand in terms of geographic demands, resilience, agility, all those things. So
absolutely,
yeah, exciting times.
For sure.
Last question: when we look at a world with the majority of the population vaccinated and a safer place to travel and do business, what are you most looking forward to? Is it getting on vacation, or is it getting back to a trade show?
You know what? I mean, I would love to go see a sporting event again. I mean, I think I miss going to the Golden State Warriors games. I miss going to the cricket grounds at Lord's or Wimbledon. Or so I think my own personal thing would be to go to a music concert or a sporting event. That's what I'm most looking forward to. From a business
That's a big deal.
I would say, Philip, I'd love to go. I miss visiting customers. I mean, we do collaborate over, over technology like Zoom, but being able to walk their facilities, be able to see the products they make, I think that you learn so much and you're so inspired by what work people do.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, there's nothing nicer than walking a factory floor with the CEO. And then, maybe going out to lunch with them afterwards where you learn a bit more about them. You don't get that from Zoom. I have to confess to being in the enviable position of having semi-final tickets for the Australian Open, which is actually happening live, because here in Melbourne, we've managed to get our case numbers down to 0 for something like 70 out of the last 80 days. So we've got all these tennis players in hotels doing quarantine, but hopefully it'll be a Nadal or a Djokovic semi-final that I'll get to see.
All right. Well, that's
very, very, very excited about
Good
that
for
one.
you.
But yeah, it looks like another interesting year. We're starting with plenty of challenges, but let's hope that it pushes forward, and it does. I think the idea that it is going to signal an acceleration in digital transformation is good news for you as a business, but I also think it's great news for the industry, and it's great news for manufacturing in the US and various other places. So looking forward to that. Amar, thanks so much for your time. Always an absolute pleasure to chat, and look forward to doing so in the near future. Thank you.
Likewise, Philip. Thank you.